everyone, it's Pope, and I'm back with a Turn Back Tuesday. This week, I'm reviewing Sleepy Hollow all the way back from 1999. I know, I was 4, shit's okay. The pros about this movie was, it was actually kind of spooky to me. I'm not really into the whole like jump scare spooky, like a cheap scare once and then it's kind of like levels out and you have to focus on the acting again. This movie actually, you know, it had some very like spooky aspects. It was kind of like more ghost spooky and, you know, played on like it had blood, so it was gory at the same time. Granted, it was from 1999, so it was kind of like cheap gory, but it was still there. And there, you know, were some jump scares thrown in there, but it wasn't reliant on the jump scares. It had, you know, just creepy aspects and like mysterious creepy aspects. So that's what made it, like, to me, made it a good actual horror movie and not just like cheap scares. There was also a lot of decent actors in it. You had like Johnny Depp and more decent actors who I can't remember the names of right now, but they're thrown in there, I promise you. I promise you. And, you know, their characterizations were really good and they played up to their characters, you know, very well. When the character needed to be, like, terrified, like, that was portrayed really well. And Johnny Depp's, you know, kind of weird, fainty character who was nervous all the time, he portrayed that very well. I don't know if that's just because who he is or what, but, you know, the characterization was really good and the actors were able to portray those characters in a good way. And to go along with the spooky, it was honestly, like, you know, pretty creepy. There was a lot of, like, blood and, like, guts and, you know, heads being severed. And it played into that, you know, really well. And for, you know, the graphics for that time were actually really good. And it also played on, like, the emotional creepy, like when there's a child quivering in the floorboards because there's, you know, a big spooky man trying to kill him. Then I thought that was actually very well, you know, played out, and it added a lot of suspense and like creepiness. Like this child probably just kind of watched his parents being murdered, but still it played on that kind of creepy horror movie aspect and not just like cheap jump scares. But there were some cons to this movie. The one was between Johnny Depp's character and the girl, like I think she was like the mayor's daughter or something like that. Their age difference always like freaked me out slightly. Like obviously like I knew Johnny Depp was, you know, older, but like the actress who played her, like the main girl in the movie, she looked like 13 and I was always like weirdly creeped out by that like age difference, and they just kind of like brushed it off. I don't even know if they like mentioned her age, but it was just like made me kind of like uncomfortable, but we just kind of like had to accept it because, you know, back in those days. But not playing with me. I also thought it was just kind of like slow at first, like, okay, spooky man shows up with a pumpkin head and, you know, he murders one person, you know, investigation murders another one, but then like everything happens all at once. Like, you know, they're in the church and like people are dying left and right and like everything just like kind of happened, and then they're like in the granary and like the windmill's catching on fire, and it just all happened at like once, and I thought like they could have spread it out like a lot more easy. And then it didn't really like explain like the witch aspects. Like it kind of did, but she was just like a very short thing. Like, oh, they go to visit her and then, you know, her sister kills her, just, you know, cause why not? So I thought like, you know, they could have like gone into that more, and that would add to the creepiness, which would have made it like a really good horror movie and stuff like that. So do I want more like the Sleepy Hollow? Yeah, you know, I'm kind of tired of like the horror movies nowadays being like all jump scares, and even like the remade horror movies from, you know, back in the day that they're remaking are more turning towards the jump scare, and I'm not a very big jump scare person. I like more of the creepy, the extraterrestrial, and the spooky ghost kind of horror movie. So no more jump scares if you're going to be making movies. We're gonna take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we have Brandon with the box office top 5. And later, Tiffany and Nayland will be discussing this week's hottest celebrity news. Don't miss it.